You're a Marine Lance Corporal stacked up outside a house in Fallujah. It's November 9, 2004. You can hear insurgents moving inside. Your squad has been clearing houses for 3 days straight. Every building could be booby-trapped. Every doorway could hide a fighter with an AK-47. Every room could be your last. You kick in the door and rush inside. Gunfire erupts. Muzzle flashes in the darkness. You're firing, moving, clearing rooms in seconds that feel like hours. This is house-to-house combat, the most brutal kind of fighting, and you've got 2 more weeks of this ahead of you. Welcome to Fallujah, the bloodiest urban battle American forces fought since Hue City in Vietnam. Today we're covering Operation Phantom Fury, the second battle of Fallujah in November 2004. This wasn't Thunder Run's rapid armored thrust. This was grinding, brutal urban warfare. 10,000 Marines and 2,000 Army soldiers fighting room to room, house to house, through a city of 300,000 that had been evacuated and turned into a fortress by insurgents. 51 Americans died. 800 were wounded. Thousands of insurgents were killed. And the battle proved that even with all our technology, urban combat still comes down to infantry clearing buildings with rifles. Let me tell you what really happened in those 2 weeks. Fallujah had become the insurgent capital of Iraq. After the first battle in April 2004 ended in a negotiated withdrawal, insurgents fortified the city. They built bunkers, planted improvised explosive devices everywhere, prepared defensive positions, stockpiled weapons. Foreign fighters poured in. Al-Qaeda in Iraq, led by Abu Musab al Zarqawi, made Fallujah their headquarters. The city became a no-go zone for coalition forces. Iraqi government had no presence. It was enemy territory inside Iraq. The decision to take Fallujah came after months of escalating violence. The insurgents weren't just defending a city. They were using it as a base to plan attacks across Iraq. Car bombs built in Fallujah were killing Iraqi civilians in Baghdad. Hostages were being held and executed in the city. The Iraqi government, newly formed, demanded action. American commanders knew taking Fallujah would be costly but necessary. If insurgents could hold an entire city, the new Iraqi government's authority meant nothing. The plan was comprehensive. First, isolate the city. Surround Fallujah completely so no insurgents could escape or reinforcements arrive. Second, conduct airstrikes and artillery bombardment on known insurgent positions. Third, assault from multiple directions simultaneously to overwhelm defenses. Fourth, clear the city building by building, south to north, methodically eliminating resistance. It was textbook urban warfare doctrine. But doctrine and reality are different things when you're the one kicking in doors. The assault began November 8th. Marines from 1st Marine Division attacked from the north. Army units from 1st Cavalry Division attacked from the south. The Marine push was the main effort. Regimental Combat Team 1 and Regimental Combat Team 7, over 6,000 Marines between them, punched into the city. The fighting started immediately and didn't stop for 2 weeks. The insurgents fought harder than expected. They'd prepared well. Buildings were reinforced. Alleys were blocked with rubble creating choke points. IEDs were everywhere in roads and buildings, even in corpses. Insurgents used mouse holes, holes blown through walls between buildings, to move without exposing themselves in streets. They'd set up interlocking fields of fire so Marines clearing one house would take fire from 3 others. Every block was a separate battle. Corporal David Bellavia was a squad leader with the Army's Task Force 2-2 Mechanized Infantry. His actions in one house became legendary. His squad entered a building and immediately took fire from multiple insurgents. In close quarters fighting, Bellavia killed 4 insurgents personally while maneuvering through the house. He used his rifle, then his knife, then whatever he could grab. He later received the Medal of Honor for actions that night. His story illustrates what this battle was like: personal, close range, absolutely brutal. The Marines developed tactics on the fly. Standard room clearing wasn't working fast enough. The threat from IEDs and booby traps made every entry dangerous. So they started using tank main gun rounds to blow holes in walls, entering through the holes instead of doors. They'd call in close air support, drop 500-pound bombs on buildings known to have insurgents, then move in immediately after. They used armored bulldozers to push through rubble and clear streets. Communications were challenging. Radios didn't work well in dense urban terrain. Units were spread across the city, keeping track of where everyone was, preventing friendly fire, coordinating support, all harder than in open terrain. Several blue-on-blue incidents occurred despite everyone's efforts. In one tragic case, an air strike killed Marines because of a coordinate error. The chaos and friction of urban combat made such mistakes nearly inevitable. The insurgents used civilian infrastructure ruthlessly. They'd position fighters in mosques knowing Americans would be reluctant to destroy religious sites. They'd use hospitals as command posts. They'd store weapons in schools. When coalition forces attacked these positions, insurgents could claim Americans were targeting civilians. It was cynical exploitation of rules of engagement, but tactically effective, until commanders decided military necessity outweighed political concerns. The Jolan District saw some of the heaviest fighting. This northern neighborhood was insurgent stronghold. Buildings were heavily fortified. Fighters were well armed and determined. The Marines who cleared Jolan described it as the worst urban combat they'd experienced. Some said it was worse than anything they'd seen in training or imagined. Block by block, house by house, room by room, they pushed through. The advance was measured in meters per day, not miles. By November 13th, 5 days in, Marines had cleared the northern half of Fallujah. Hundreds of insurgents were dead. Weapons caches were being discovered constantly, but resistance hadn't collapsed. The southern half of the city still needed clearing. Army units attacking from the south were making progress but facing determined resistance. The battle was far from over. The urban environment created unique challenges. Rubble blocked streets, forcing vehicles to find alternate routes. Buildings would collapse from explosives, creating new obstacles. Smoke from fires reduced visibility. The smell was overwhelming: burning buildings, decomposing bodies, sewage from damaged infrastructure. It assaulted every sense and drained soldiers psychologically as much as physically. Medical evacuation was dangerous. Medevac helicopters couldn't land in many areas due to enemy fire. Wounded had to be carried to secure landing zones. Some casualties bled out before reaching medical care. The corpsmen and medics worked miracles under fire, but they couldn't save everyone. Every unit had soldiers or Marines who died despite best efforts. Those losses hit hard and motivated survivors to finish the job. By November 23rd, organized resistance had largely ended. Sporadic fighting continued, but the insurgents no longer controlled any part of Fallujah. Coalition forces held the city. The final tallies showed the cost: 51 Americans killed, over 800 wounded. Iraqi security forces lost around 8 killed and 40 wounded. Insurgent deaths were estimated between 1,200 and 2,000. Thousands more were captured. The city itself was devastated. Entire neighborhoods destroyed. Most buildings damaged, infrastructure wrecked. The reconstruction would take years and billions of dollars, but militarily the operation succeeded. Fallujah was no longer insurgent territory. Al-Qaeda in Iraq lost its main base. The insurgency continued across Iraq but never regained the safe haven Fallujah had provided. The lessons from Fallujah influenced how American forces approached urban warfare for the next decade. The tactics developed there, the understanding of what works and what doesn't in dense urban terrain, shaped operations in other Iraqi cities and later in Syria against ISIS. Urban warfare doctrine was updated based on Fallujah's lessons paid for in blood. For the Marines and soldiers who fought there, Fallujah defined their service. Some never talked about it. Others couldn't stop. All carried the experience forever. The intensity of combat, the losses of friends, the moral complexity of fighting in a city, these marked everyone who participated. Veterans of Fallujah formed tight bonds, united by shared experience few others could understand. The Iraqi perspective is harder to document. Many Fallujah residents fled before the battle, returning to find homes destroyed. They were caught between insurgents who'd occupied their city and coalition forces who'd leveled neighborhoods to defeat those insurgents. Some blamed Americans. Others blamed insurgents for bringing destruction. Most just wanted their lives back. If you fought in Fallujah or participated in Operation Phantom Fury, leave a comment below. The Second Battle of Fallujah remains one of the most significant urban battles in modern military history, a brutal reminder that despite all our technology, infantry still has to clear buildings with rifles and courage. Thanks for watching. Fallujah showed that urban warfare, even with modern equipment and training, remains the most difficult and costly type of combat. 51 Americans died taking back one city. 800 were wounded. The price of victory in urban terrain is always measured in blood. The Marines and soldiers who fought in Fallujah paid that price and broke the insurgent stronghold. Their sacrifice allowed the Iraqi government to begin establishing control. The battle was brutal, necessary, and unforgettable for everyone involved. If you want more stories from Iraq, Afghanistan, and other Middle Eastern conflicts, hit subscribe. We're covering the battles that shaped the region. From Thunder Run to Fallujah, from Helmand Province to Mosul, we're telling the stories of the men and women who fought there. I'll see you in the next one.